Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will be present about Shariah guideline in Islamic capital market.
We will begin with the introduction. Islamic capital market is the financial market where debt and equity are demanded and supplied based on Sharia compliant principle. There are a few types of Islamic capital market. Islamic capital market is the largest market that provided few types of product, which is, for example, unit trust, Islamic fund management, and Islamic securities. Because of that, our study are based on the Shariah guideline in Islamic fund management. Next is the Shariah guideline in unit trust, and lastly, Shariah guideline in Islamic securities. Okay, this is the content of our presentation today, which is the objective of our presentation is first to study the Shariah guideline in Islamic fund management. The second one to study the Shariah guideline in unit trust, and the last one to study the Shariah guideline in Islamic securities. We will begin with the literature review of these three Shariah guideline, which is the Islamic fund management, unit trust, and Islamic securities, and then we will elaborate more details about the finding and discussion. We will begin with the Shariah guideline in Islamic fund management, and then we will go through the Shariah guideline in unit trust, and lastly we will be elaborate about the Shariah guideline in Islamic securities.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amir Syahmi bin Muhammad Shukri. Number metric 2019884118. Today for my part, I will present about our objective. One of our objective is to study the Shariah guideline for Islamic fund management under the ICM or Islamic capital market. Okay, we go for the first literature review. For my part, I have three literature review. First, we go for the definition of Islamic fund management. But as we know, in Islamic capital market, there are several things under Islamic capital market, and one of that is Islamic fund management. So based on my objective to study the Shariah guideline of the Islamic fund management, so we go first for literature review in Islamic fund management. Okay, writing by organization that have involved with the finance and banking, namely the standing Community for Economy and Commercial Cooperation of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, COMSIS. Okay, based on COMSIS, say introduction of the Sharia compliance screening methodologies that have contributed to the development of Sharia compliant stock and Islamic index, to the development of the more advanced structured investment product and various form of fund, the Islamic equity market have developed. Okay, as we know, in Islamic fund management is about how we manage our fund from element of prohibition. So we must make sure every fund from any sources such as stock or saving or other than sources, we must make sure the management is Sharia compliant. So that's why we have a Islamic fund management to make sure our fund to make sure our fund follow the Shariah guidelines. Okay, for the next slide, for literature view, we go for the ad related to the Islamic fund management. Okay, writing by the Muhammad Azam Hussein, Rusni Hassan dan Aznan Hassan, The art related to the Islamic fund management is the Islamic Financial Service Act 2013. At Art 759 is the latest art passed by the Parliament of Malaysia to regulate the Islamic financial business sector in Malaysia. Okay, this art come into the force on 3 June 2013 and have replaced the Islamic Banking Act 1983 and the Takaful Act 1984. So this is latest for the Islamic Financial Service Act for in Malaysia to make sure our Islamic financial system secure. Okay. APKI is an art to provide for the regulation and supervision of Islamic financial institution, payment system and other related entity, that supervision of Islamic money market and Islamic foreign exchange market. Okay, for the last part of literature view, we go for the method related to the Islamic fund management. Okay, based on one article that I found, Shariah Bus Secretary and its important to the Islamic capital market by the Sharifah Yusuf and Azizi Abu Bakar. Okay, this article will address Shariah approval security and their relevance to Malaysia growth of the Islamic capital market. Okay, it seeks to classify the criteria defined by the Security Commission Shariah Advisory Council for the scanning of the security trending in Bursa Malaysia, as well as certain issues relating to the criteria itself. It has been found that the list of the approval Shariah security benefit Muslim investor and also enhance the growth of the Islamic capital market in Malaysia. So as we know, Shariah Advisory Council, or we call as SAC, of the Security Commissions, they will do a screening for the security in the trending or in the Bursa Malaysia to make sure the company, the stock, the investment must be compliant to the Shariah before the Muslim investor want to make a investment in the stock.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And today I will be presenting on Shariah guideline in unit trust. My name is Muhammad bin Mazalan, and we will see what is the terms and condition applied in application of the Shariah guideline. Okay, we will begin with the literature review provided for these articles. The article is Purification of Islamic Unit Trust Fund, a Sharia Analysis on Malaysia Approach, written by Ahmad Zaki Saleh and Muhammad Zaharuddin Zakaria. In this article, it is talking about the implementation of the purification process regarding unit trust. And in this article, it also stated the importance of purification process that must be go through by any investment activities to ensure there are no non-Sharia compliant profit gain from this investment activity. Okay, for the second literature review is the article, which is the title is Instrumen Pasaran Modal Islam di Malaysia, Kajian Khusus Terhadap Amanah Saham Islam. It is written by Muhammad Yamin Ismail and Abdullah Alwi Haji Hassan. In this article, it is stated about the requirement of the Sharia advisor to advise or to revise and manage the Sharia principle that mandatory to the operational of unit trust. In this article, it is stated that the importance of the Sharia Advisory Council of the Security Commission to ensure that the management or the company that manage the unit trust follow the Sharia principles and the Sharia guideline provided. Okay, and the last literature review is written by Rizwan Masri and Anasir Muhammad, which is the title is Islamic Unit Trust in Malaysia, Issues, Prospect and Challenges. In this article, it is focusing on the government and related entities encourage proactive participation on research and development, consists of the benefits of Islamic Unit Trust and the regulatory framework provided that followed a Sharia guideline. In this article, they are encourage the government and the entities to joint venture and struggle to ensure there are research and development in unit trust fund and unit trust investment, and also they encourage the government and also the related entities to acknowledge and encourage the peoples to make an investment in Islamic unit trust fund that followed the Sharia guideline and Sharia principle as the benefits of the unit trust fund.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Haikaluddin bin Muhammad Husli. So I will present about the Islamic securities or sukuk. Okay, we go to the definition of sukuk. According to the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution (AAO-IFI), sukuk refers to a certificate of equal value representing undivided shares in ownership of tangible assets, usufruct and services, assets of particular projects or special investment activity. According to the Islamic Financial Service Board (IFSB), sukuk is a certificate that represents the holder's proportionate ownership in an undivided part of an underlying asset, where the holder assumes all rights and obligations to such assets. And according to Securities Commission Malaysia (SC), sukuk is a document or certificate which represents the value of an asset. Next, we go to the type of sukuk. As you all can see in this figure, the sukuk be formed based on the Sharia contract. Okay, first, sale-based contract, which is murabahah, istisna, salam. Secondly, lease-based, which is ijarah mutahiyah bid tamlik and ijarah mausufah fi dimmah. Thirdly, agency-based, which is wakalah lil istihmar. And lastly, partnership, which is mudharabah and musyarakah. Okay, according to the AAO-IFI, there are 14 different types of sukuk, and the most famous or commonly sukuk based on the Sharia contract that have been used widely are mudharabah, ijarah istisna, musyarakah, salam mudharabah, and even some of the type which is hybrid versions. So this contract is differ from each other. Okay, for example, is condition, requirement, modus operandi and others. So this contract will be selected which suitable with the project or business that are being conducted. We go to the difference between sukuk and bonds. So firstly, in the aspect of asset ownership, sukuk are financial certificate representing beneficial ownership of real assets. The investor had given the partial ownership in the asset on which the sukuk are based. Okay, for the bonds are proof of debt and not a share of ownership in the assets. So it is a debt obligation from the issuer of bond to the bond holder. Okay, in the aspect of issuer representations, the asset in the sukuk must be tangible and Sharia compliance according to the Islamic principle, while Bonds can be used to finance any assets, project, business, or joint venture that comply with local legislations only. Okay, in the aspect issuer units, each sukuk represents a share of the underlying asset, while each bonds represent a share of debt. Okay, in the aspect of the issue price, okay, for the sukuk, the face value of sukuk is based on the market value of the underlying asset. For the bonds, the face value of bond price is based on the issuer creditworthiness, including its rating. And lastly, in the aspect of return sharing, for the sukuk, returns are termed as dividends. Okay, sukuk holders receive a share of profits from the underlying asset and accept a share of any loss incurred. So the profit and loss in the sukuk is different from each other contract. So it is based on according to their profit ratio agreement. Okay, for the bonds, return are termed as a coupons, and bonds holder receive regularly scheduled and often fixed rate interest payment for the life of the bonds.
Okay, we have listened the literature review and other than discussion. Okay, now we go the important part of this presentation, which is finding and discussion. Okay, to fulfill my objective is to study the Shariah guidelines in Islamic fund management. I go first finding and discussion for the art related to the Islamic fund and management. Okay, we go for the first art, which is section 377 of the Capital Market Service Act 2007. Okay, in this session 377 say the commission made generally in respect of this art or in respect of any particular provision of this art, issues such as guidelines, practice, note as a commission considered this rebel. Okay, so we can understand here the commission is one body that will provide the guidelines. So for the Islamic fund management, the guidelines for the Islamic fund management will be provided by Security Commission. That's one entity can be trusted and can provide the guideline of Islamic fund based on Shariah principle. Okay, next the commission may revoke, revise and amend the whole or any part or any guidelines and practice note under this session. So every single person or entity that related to the Islamic fund management must follow this guideline that provided by the commission. So we must make sure that so the commission must make sure every single part must be Shariah compliance. Okay, for the next art, we go for the section 18 of the Security Commission Act 1993. Okay, say the board may be established as community in any form and by whatever name called, and the board consider fit and necessary to assist board in the performance of its functions under the security law. Okay, we know for the Islamic Sharia Islamic fund management, we need to we need to appointing the Shariah advisory. So or we know in the bank we can call the community members. Okay, how to make the community member? First, from any board member. Second, for or any person. But for any person, the board should regard the person with integrity, reputation, knowledge, skill and experience which will enable him to discharge his fund as a member of the board community. Okay, so we go for the last part for the art related to the Islamic fund management, which is Islamic Fund Service Act 2013. Okay, APKI is an art provide to the regulation and supervision of Islamic financial institution, payment system and other related entity, and the supervision of the Islamic money market and Islamic foreign exchange market to promote financial stability and Shariah compliance. This solo art in the regulating Islamic financial service institution under the supervision of Bank Negara Malaysia or Bank or BNM. Okay, this art also not only govern Islamic financial institution but also takaful institution also contained in this art. Okay, as we know, before this we have two art that separate Islamic banking and takaful institution. But now under the APKI or Islamic Financial Service Act 2013, both Islamic banking and takaful under one art that will provide more stability and will be good to govern by one art. Okay, for the next slide, which is guidelines stated by the Security Commission, or in Malay we call Suruhanjaya Security Malaysia, that stated first guideline is appointment of the Shariah advisory or pelantikan penasihat Syariah. Okay, for the in Islamic fund management company must appoint the individual or corporation as independent Shariah advisory approved and registered by the SC, which is Security Commission, meet the follow criteria. Okay, first, person must not bankrupt. Second, not have a criminal proceeding, and must have a good reputation and also good in character. Okay, so that's the conditions, or the in Malay we say syarat, how macam mana kita nak melantik penasihat syariah. Okay, for the next we go for the roles of the Shariah advisory. First, to advise on all aspects in Islamic fund management according to Shariah principles. Second, to provide Shariah expertise and guidelines on all method, particular documentation, structuring and investment instrument, and ensure the compliance with the relevant SC regulations and standard, include resolutions issued by the SAC, Shariah Advisory Council. Okay, now we go for the employees competency, which is for more understanding kecakapan pekerja. Okay, we go in the Islamic fund management company must have adequate employees with necessary qualifications, expertise and experience for its business, and provide the sufficient training, whether internal or other ways for all employees and license representatives so they can acquire necessary knowledge for the business. And third, ensure its compliance office is well versed on Islamic fund management business and have the adequate Shariah knowledge on Islamic financial and capital market. Okay, next we go for the portfolio management. Okay, portfolio management. An Islamic fund management company must ensure that its investment activity are limited to the Shariah compliant investment, and for the investment listed in security on the Bursa Malaysia, an Islamic fund management should invest only on security listed on the SAC list Shariah compliant security, and other for the investment and unless unleased in security on the Islamic fund management company is encouraged to follow SC methodology in determining the Shariah status of the list security. Okay, next, for the investments in security trade on the exchange outside Malaysia, an Islamic fund management should have only invest in the security endorsed by the Shariah advisory or by an international Shariah standard setting body. Okay, now we go for the writing and disclosure and declaration. Okay, Islamic fund management company is expected to prepare at last annual writing disclosure and declaration to board of director of Islamic fund management company and the SC that Islamic fund management business is carried out in according Shariah principle. Okay, an Islamic fund management company must ensure that the disclosure declarations and other record made by Shariah advisory are maintained as a requirement under guideline on compliance fund for the fund management companies. The record must be available for examination upon the SC request. Okay, for the next, we go for the internal audit. An Islamic fund management company must put in place appropriate system merchandise within internal audit requirement to the monitor Shariah compliance in according with this guideline relevant Shariah regulation SC regulation and standard include resolution issued by the SAC. So for the fund management company, of course, this guideline must be followed because this is stated by the Security Commission to make sure every single fund must follow the Shariah principle and avoid the element of prohibition. Okay, for the last finding and discussion, we go for the difference Islamic and conventional fund. In the terms of common goals, they share such as a mutual saving, capital provisions, and return insertion. Islamic fund management are similar to conventional fund. Okay, Islamic fund must always comply with Sharia rules and law in terms of their operation, activity, and investment. Okay, skill management of investor money in the Sharia compliant security and property in according the principle of Sharia to complete the financial objective. Okay, for the conventional fund, the fund management in conventional is how to maximize the profit without insulate the sources of fund. It's a very difference between conventional and Islamic fund, because we know in Islamic we must allocate what the sources from of the funds. Okay, conventional financial management have product just like Islamic fund, but the conventional have a different objective and principle. Okay, as we know, Islamic, the base is Al-Quran and Sunnah, and the Sharia principle must avoid such as riba, gharar, and maisir. But in conventional, there are only think how to maximum the profit, and without know the what come from the any sources, maybe from riba or interest or usury or waror or maisir.
Okay, for the finding and discussion of the second objective, which is Shariah Guideline in Unit Trust, on the study of the Shariah Guideline on Islamic capital market, the first one is appoint Shariah advisor. The company that manage unit trust need to appoint their own Shariah advisor. It is to ensure the company follow the Shariah principle. Secondly, the appointing of the internal Shariah advisor is one of the Security Commission guideline provided. By doing this, it will improve image and bring trust to the investor to make an investment, whether the investor is Muslims or non-Muslims. It is because when the company have their own internal Shariah advisor, the investor will encourage, because the Shariah advisor will have their own proper planning on how to manage the unit trust and how to mitigate the risk of the non-Shariah compliance profit, and how to manage the non-Shariah compliant profits, where to invest the unit trust, and so on. So the appointing of the Shariah advisor or the internal Shariah advisor for the company that manage unit trust is one of the Shariah guideline in unit trust. Okay, for the second finding and discussion of the Shariah guideline in unit trust is Shariah screening. The company that manage the unit trust must ensure the activities and profit getting from the unit trust investment must go through the Shariah screening. It is to ensure that there are no profit getting from the Shariah non-compliant activities, and no prohibited element include from that profit. And the second one is the need to follow the business activity benchmark and financial ratio benchmark that has been provided by the Shariah Advisory Council of the Security Commission, and also provided by their internal Shariah advisor that has been appointed before. It is to ensure that the whole business or the whole investment activity from that unit trust follow the Shariah guideline and follow the Shariah principles, and avoiding from any prohibited element include from their profit. The last one is the purification of Shariah non-compliant profit. The company that manage unit trust are needed to ensure they are follow the guideline provided by the Shariah Advisory Council of the Security Commission, and also the guideline provided by their internal Shariah advisor. There are three types of benchmark provided by the Shariah Advisory Council, which is the first one is the 5% benchmark, 20% benchmark, and 33% benchmark. And if the profit gain exceed the benchmark provided, it is needed to be purified. For example, if the unit trust company making an investment into the non-Shariah compliant activities, the profit gain from that type of investment cannot be included into the profit of gaining from other activities. It must be purified, because income and wealth was a major concern in Islam and Sharia. Allah says in the Quran, take from their wealth of profit charity to purify and bless them, and pray for them. Surely your prayer is source of comfort for them, and Allah is all hearing and all knowing. Surah At-Tawbah verse 103. This stated that the importance of the purification and the clean profit gaining from any activities that have been made. And so the company that manage the unit trust need to ensure they are making an investment into the Shariah compliant activities, and if they are not doing that and making an investment into the Shariah non-compliant activities, the profit need to be purified according to the Shariah guideline of the unit trust. Okay, right now we will go through the legal binding of the unit trust. The first one is chapter 6.2b 2 Roman under guideline on unit trust. A management company should implement and maintain the following arrangement, which is appointed of the Shariah advisor for a Shariah compliant fund. So under this guideline on unit trust provided by the Security Commission, the management or the company that manage unit trust need to appoint their internal Shariah advisor, same as what I said before. And under Section 15C of the Security Commission Act, Security Commission needed to ensure the obligatory of legal framework and law provided of the SC. And under Section 15E, Security Commission Act also, the Security Commission are needed to ensure to monitor any activities related to fund management of unit trust scheme and private retirement scheme. So under this both section, it is clearly stated that the Security Commission have their own power to monitor any activities regarding unit trust, and also to ensure that unit trust company or the company that manage unit trust follow the law and legal framework provided by the Security Commission, including the Shariah guideline provided by the Shariah Advisory Council of the Security Commission. For example, purification of the profit gain, and also the benchmark of the activities and so on. So these are the legal binding that need to be followed by the unit trust or in under the Sharia guideline in unit trust.
Now we go to the Shariah guideline in Islamic securities, Sukuk. So firstly, we need to appoint a Shariah advisor. Okay, Shariah advisor refers to specialist jurists, especially in Islamic finance and fiqh muamalat, that assigned with the duty of directing, reviewing and supervising the activities that related with the Islamic finance field, in order to make sure all the matters are compliant with the Sharia principle and rules. In addition, the Sharia advisor need to have a good and more knowledge in fiqh, especially in fiqh muamalat. Okay, so Sharia advisor can be either an individual or corporation registered with SC. So we can refer to the SC website to see or look the list of the individual or corporation that already registered with SC. Okay, secondly, Sharia advisor can be a licensed Islamic bank, and thirdly, licensed bank or investment bank that been approved to carry on in Islamic banking business. Okay, secondly, roles and responsibility of Sharia advisor. So Sharia advisor need to advise on all aspects of the issuance of sukuk in accordance with Sharia principle. Secondly, Sharia advisor need to provide the Sharia expertise and guidance on all matters, particularly in documentations of sukuk, structuring and investment instruments, and need to ensure sukuk is compliant with the relevant securities law and guideline that issued by the SC. Okay, thirdly, the Sharia advisor need to ensuring that the applicable Sharia ruling, principle and concept that endorsed by the SAC are compliant. Okay, and lastly, applying ijtihad. So if the rulings, principle and concept that endorsed by the SAC is absent, the Sharia advisor can give or apply ijtihad to ensure all aspects relating to the sukuk are in compliance with the Sharia. Okay, next we go to the naming of sukuk. The sukuk must be named with the right name to avoid the misleading. Okay, firstly, if the sukuk are structured using a single Sharia principle or Sharia contract, the sukuk must be named according to that Shariah principle. For example, if the sukuk are using the murabahah contract, the sukuk will be named as a sukuk murabahah. If they are using the musyarakah contract, the sukuk will be named as a sukuk musyarakah. Okay, secondly, if the sukuk are structured using multiple Shariah principle. So multiple Shariah principle also known as a hybrid sukuk. The sukuk means the combination of two or more contracts. For example, combination of ijarah, murabahah and istisna. So the name can be named according to the name of the issuer or obligor sukuk, so where applicable. Secondly, can be named as sukuk istihmar or sukuk investment. Thirdly, based on any other's name according to the principle endorsed by the SAC from time to time. Okay, next, ibrok or release of rights. For the contract of bai' bitamal ajil, murabahah and musawamah, ibrok refers to release of rights on debts or amount due and payable under a contract. For the ijarah contract, ibrok refers to release of right on accurate rental. Now we look at the ibrok can be applied in the event of an early redemptions. So firstly, sukuk holders may offer ibrok to the issuer based on the applications made by the issuer for early redemption of sukuk upon occurrence of any event of default, co-options, regulatory redemption or tax redemptions. So the formula for the computation of early settlement may be stated as a guide to the issuer. And lastly, the ibrok clause and the formula for the computation of early settlement may be stated in the main agreement of sukuk bai' bitaman ajil, sukuk murabahah and sukuk ijarah. However, the ibrok clause in the main agreement shall be separate with the part from the part related to the price of the transacted asset, and the ibrok clause should only be stated under the section for mode of payment or settlement in the said agreement. Okay, tawid or compensations. So the tawid is related to the default payment or late payment. Okay, firstly, for the sukuk bai' bitaman ajil, sukuk murabahah, sukuk istisna and sukuk ijarah, so tawid is permissible when the issuer or the obligor of the sukuk delays the payment of any amount due and payable to the sukuk holders. For the sukuk musyarakah and sukuk mudharabah, tawid is permissible when the issuer fails to distribute the realized profit to the sukuk holders on the agreed date. In addition, tawid does not apply to the failure to pay expected profit. Okay. Secondly, when the delay the payment of any amount due and payable to the sukuk holders upon dissolutions or termination of musyarakah or mudharabah arrangement. And lastly, sukuk wakalah bil al-istimar or sukuk investment, the tawid is permissible when the issuer or agent breach its fiduciary duty as an investment manager due to its failure to distribute the realized profit to the sukuk holders on the agreed date. And also, it can be permissible when delay the payment of any amount due and payable to the sukuk holders upon dissolution of wakalah arrangement. Okay, we look at the Shariah rulings applicable to specific type of sukuk. So firstly, musyarakah. Okay, musyarakah is a partnership arrangement between two or more parties to finance a venture. Okay, for the musyarakah capital contributed by each of the musyrik or partners must be in the form of cash or in kind of cash. Okay, for the musyarakah partners, there must be at least two partners to form a musyarakah. Okay, and there is no minimum number of musyarakah partners which is investor in the secondary market. Okay, for the profit and loss, the profit from musyarakah venture will be distributed among the partners according to the pre-agreed profit sharing ratio, and any loss must be shared among the partners according to their respective capital contributions. And lastly, for the management of the musyarakah venture, one of the partners or the issuer of sukuk or a third party may be appointed as the manager to manage the musyarakah venture. Mudharabah. Mudharabah is a contract that made between two parties to enter into a venture. Okay, the parties is consist of the robumal or capital provider and the mudarib or entrepreneur. So in the mudharabah, robumal known as a sukuk holder, while the mudarib is a issuer of sukuk. Okay, for the mudharabah capital contributed by robumal or capital provider must be in the form of cash or in kind of cash. Okay, secondly, about rahnu or collateral, the robumal may request mudarib to place rahnu as protection from possibility of loss on capital that may occur as a result of negligence and misconduct by the mudarib. Okay, for the profit and loss, the profit from mudharabah venture must be distributed between the robumal and the mudarib according to the pre-agreed profit sharing ratio. And for the loss must be borne solely by the robumal as a capital provider unless the loss is due to the negligence or mismanagement of the mudarib in managing the mudharabah venture. So for this issue, to avoid the loss, the robumal can request the mudarib to place rahnu as protection. Okay, and lastly, management of the mudharabah venture. Okay, the management of the mudharabah venture must be carried out by the mudarib or a third party appointed by the mudarib. So that's all the Shariah guideline for the Islamic securities. So for more information, you all just can refer to the SC website. Thank you.
Okay, we hear all the presentation. Okay, now for the conclusions, the Islamic capital market have many advantages which can provide advantage in the development of the both capital market to the public, especially for Muslim. This can increase the fund of Muslim and be able to develop the religion of Islam itself. This will be Muslim able to control the Islamic economy and financial. In addition, Islamic capital market can reduce the impact of the harmful product and practice. The harmful things such as riba, gharar, and maisir. So that's all from us. Thank you for give you some time to hear our presentation. I hope this will be our new knowledge to all of you, and thank you for Doctor. And any question you can ask after the presentation. Thank you.